hopefully, I'll get my car, and then a few years down the road, all of you guys will have supercars, and then we'll do like a supercar rally or something. Share this video with your friends, because maybe they want supercars too, and the more supercars, the better for everybody. This is like the third time I've had to record this video in the last 5 days. It's absolutely ridiculous. Alright, what's up you guys? Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video, and welcome back to Vic Drives. Now, as you can see, we are not outside in my driveway. We are not sitting in the back of the Merc or, you know, any of our usual spots. We are actually in my studio, if you will. This is pretty much where I hang out to edit my videos, or that board right over there. Hopefully I'm pointing at it. But that's my goal board for YouTube, like my 5-year plan, future video ideas, any feedback that I get from you guys, to kind of improve the channel and move from there. But anyways, the reason that I am here, and the reason that I am shooting this for the third time in the last 5 or so days, is because every time I make this video and then sit down to edit it, I just don't end up liking what I said the time before. And so I've made myself a few notes, which I will pull up. So basically, this video is 5 steps to help you, or really anybody in their 20s, buy a supercar sometime within the next few years. It obviously changes based on the person, but we'll go from here. So before we get into the list, let me just start by saying I am not a financial professional. I am a 22-year-old hanging out in his basement, but because I have done all of these steps in the past, I'm hoping that that gives me enough credibility to kind of put it out on the internet, although I guess you don't really need any credibility to put it on the internet. Regardless, let's get into the list. So, number 1 is to have a goal. Now, in this specific situation, the goal is the car, so you should know what car you want. So if you go back to the first video in this series that I'm making, essentially, I went through possible options for first supercars. So now, my car, I made myself a list. I went through, I watched reviews, obviously looked at what other people were doing with their cars, and then I kind of balanced out and checked, you know, what are the depreciation curves and all that kind of stuff, but none of that really mattered to me because I kind of always knew what car I wanted, and lucky for me, all the financials kind of checked out on that as well. But number 1 is to figure out what car you want. So number 2 is to make a plan. Now, that pretty much just means, when do you want this car by? So for me, I saw the car when I was 10 years old, and I knew that I wanted it, but obviously I couldn't drive then. And so then, you know, 16, 17 is way too early to be buying a supercar. I obviously didn't have a job, wasn't making any money, and really couldn't at age 10. So I thought, okay, if I get out of college at 21 or 22 and then work for a few years, hopefully I can have it by 25. And so that was my goal. My goal was always buy this car by the time I turned 25. Now, let's say you're already 22 or you're 21 or something like that. Do you have enough time for whatever your plan is, right? So let's say that you want to start a family by the time you're 25. So generally speaking, once you have a kid or, you know, a wife or other things to worry about, your supercar is probably not going to be at the top of your list. So if you want it before then now your goal is 24, which means you only have 3 years, let's say. And then you also have to figure out, do you want to pay for this car in full? Like, do you need the full $100,000 by the time you're ready to buy the car? Or would you rather finance it while the rest of it is sitting in your investment account or your savings account and gaining money or making money? And that's really a personal preference. Some people swear by buying their cars outright with cash, And, that might take a little bit longer, but then you own the car. Whereas with finance, you have to worry about interest rates and this, that, and the other thing. So personal preference. But, it's up to you. All of this is really up to you, so I can't really give you any input there. But I decided that I wanted to have the money to buy the car in full, but then I would finance it and then leave the rest of it in my investment account to basically accumulate interest over time. Because I knew that my investment account would return back more than I would be losing in paying the interest. And then that way, if there were any major repairs or anything, I had the cash to fix things so that I would never have to just let my car sit there and, wait until I had enough money to fix it. Now, number 3 is to start saving. So you've made a plan, you've picked your car, you know roughly how much it's going to cost you. Now, obviously, some cars, their values just skyrocket overnight, and there's really nothing we can do about that. But if you're following the market somewhat closely, and if this is like your dream car, then, you know how much it'll cost more or less, and you can pretty much prepare for that. So you pretty much now, you have your number, so you got to start saving for it. And so for me, that number was around $100,000. So I wanted to hit that $100,000 in cash that I had like in my pocket, but not literally in my pocket because my pockets aren't big enough for that. But investment accounts, bank accounts, whatever. So I wanted to have at least $100,000 by the time that I started looking for my car. Now, that was the number that I hit when I made the first video maybe a month ago now. Now, obviously, because I paused the search as of one of the other videos that I will also link above, I'll have time to save even more. So maybe I'll use that extra money that I have to maybe put more money down and then finance a smaller amount. Or maybe I'll keep it in there and allow that to accumulate in my investment accounts or savings accounts over time, and then still finance the exact same amount. I'm not sure, but that's where I was. But obviously you need to hit whatever your goal is. So it's the same as if you were saving for a house or if you were saving for anything else. So then you set aside a certain amount of money, you take it out of your paycheck immediately, put it aside, say, this is money for my car, for my house, for whatever, and you just promise yourself that you will not touch that money no matter what happens. Even if it comes down to $5 for chicken nuggets that you just don't have in your budget, you do not touch that money. You can buy chicken nuggets once you have your supercar, but your chicken nuggets can't buy you a supercar. It's a terrible analogy, but I'm sticking to it. Number 4. This one seems to be scaring a lot of people for some reason. Like, a lot of people that I've talked to are very hesitant to kind of put their money into the stock market or into real estate or, into anything. They kind of just leave it in a savings account or in their like 401ks and like very, very conservative margins. But you got to invest your money. If you want to do this in your 20s, you have to invest it. So let's switch over to the computer screen and I will show you guys what I'm looking at here. So I am looking at a compound interest calculator. Now, for those of you that don't know, compound interest is basically you have a certain amount of principal, which is the money that you put into the market initially, and then in order to actually make more money, you have to put in more money, which is surprisingly something that not a lot of people do. So I took a very middle of the road approach. Now, obviously this won't apply to everybody. You might not be in a situation where you can do this amount, but you can play around with the numbers and figure out what will work or what won't work for you. But for this specific example, what I did was I put $2,000 into the account initially, and then every month, so when you get your paycheck bi-weekly or monthly or hourly, whatever it might be, every month you set aside $500. Now, that's a couple lunches or like, you know, something like, instead of going out to eat at a restaurant every day or every night or something like that, you set aside that money and maybe you cook for yourself. Or, you know, instead of going out and eating at a restaurant, maybe you just grab a pizza, hang out at home, invite a couple friends over, kick back and relax, right? There are definitely places where we can find money that we're not exactly spending wisely, and you pretty much set that money aside, and now that is working for you to get a supercar. And you know, it's definitely a change in mindset, so it might take some work initially, but keep your eyes on the prize and you guys we can get it done. And so in length of time, in years, so in this example I just went with like a 21-year-old because I figured that's probably when, you know, most people are getting out of college or getting like a job or something like that. You might be younger, you might be older, but I said 21, so we'll say, because the title is How to Buy a Supercar in Your 20s, 21-year-olds have about 9 years to get through their 20s. So now the interest rate, the stock market has generally returned between 7 and 8% annually. So, you know, it could be higher, it could be lower, and that's what the variance range is. So you might get 5%, you might get 11%. Now, if you want to cut down the amount of time that you have to buy your car, you might need to put in a little more work. Now, I've only been invested in the stock market for a little over a year now, and I have made a decent amount. I think my returns are somewhere around like 25%, which is massive. Now, you might not be able to replicate it, you might be able to, I'm not sure, but if we make this number 12% and then hit calculate, in 9 years, adding our $500 a month to the $2,000, we'll be at around $94,200.10. And now that's not particularly a lot, but it's a lot more than we probably would have had if we left it in a savings account that was yielding like 1.2%, right? And that's, you know, that's where most people will see the biggest difference. Now, a very, very safe approach, especially in today's economy, is to literally just buy a couple index funds and then just keep funneling that $500 every month into it. And, you know, in 9 years, that will be your return, which is pretty astronomical. Now, if you actually decide to look into stocks, you can find that certain stocks are doing better than other ones. And then, you know, you don't need to be waiting for lows or highs or anything. You just keep buying in consistently, and compound interest will literally always take your money up. And that's something that a lot of people don't get. So hopefully this message finds a few of you and, you know, helps you with it. And that's step 4. So now step 5 is pretty simple, and it's the step that I'm on. It's to go out, find your car, buy it, and then enjoy it. And when you finally hit that number and you're on number 5 or step 5 or whatever I've been calling it through this video, it's a pretty good feeling. And honestly, the day that I saw that number, when I like plugged in all the values from savings accounts and investment accounts and just cash that I had lying around, and I saw that final number that I was looking at, I was on top of the world. And hopefully, whenever we get out of this pandemic situation or the apocalypse, or I'm not sure what it is, but as soon as we get to a point where I can actually get out of the house or get out of the area and, you know, fly around to actually find my dream spec or the right spec of my dream car, it's gonna be like another level of it. But right now I'm super happy with where I am, and being here at like age 22 is really kind of surreal. And hopefully I'll get my car, and then a few years down the road all of you guys will have supercars, and then we'll do like a supercar rally or something. I'm not sure, but we'll look for it, and you know, we might make it happen. But I believe in you guys, so keep it positive. If you enjoyed the video, definitely be sure to leave it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share this video with your friends, because maybe they want supercars too, and the more supercars, the better for everybody. But yeah, with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.